when all hope is lost. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, there are moments in life when the weight of the world feels too heavy, when the darkness of our struggles surrounds us and every step forward feels impossible. We've all been there, when hope seems distant, when the pain feels endless, when the dreams we once had feel like a distant memory. It's in those moments when we ask ourselves, what do we do when all hope is lost? But let me tell you something important, something I've learned through my own journey. Hope doesn't vanish, it simply transforms. It isn't something we find in the world around us, it is something we find within ourselves. It's a flicker in our hearts, a spark that never truly dies, no matter how dark the world may seem. When hope feels lost, it's because we've forgotten how to look within. We've forgotten that we are more than the circumstances we face. We are more than the hardships, more than the pain. We are the ones who get to define our own strength. In the face of brokenness, we can choose to rebuild. In the face of despair, we can choose to rise again. I've been there. I've stared into the abyss, feeling like the world was closing in, and yet I am here today, standing, breathing, and speaking to you. Why? Because I refuse to let the darkness define me. I refuse to let the world dictate my worth. I chose to believe in myself, even when it felt like no one else could. The truth is, hope is not about having all the answers or seeing the end of the tunnel immediately. It's about taking one step at a time, even when you can't see the way ahead. It's about allowing yourself to feel the pain, but not letting it control you. It's about knowing that this too shall pass, and the strength you build in the process will make you stronger than you ever imagined. We all face moments when hope feels distant, but we must remember that within each of us is the ability to transform that hopelessness into something greater, something more powerful than we could ever comprehend. The human spirit is relentless. It is capable of overcoming the most difficult trials, of rising even when the world tries to pull us down. The next time you feel like hope is lost, take a deep breath. Stand tall. You are still here, and as long as you're still breathing, hope is never truly lost. You have the power to rewrite your story, to find the light in the darkness, to rise again and again and again. Because when all hope seems lost, that is exactly when you have the power to create it anew. Hope is not lost. It transforms from within. Hope, in its purest form, is not a fragile or fleeting thing. It is not something that can simply be taken away or completely extinguished by external forces. Hope is not dependent on the circumstances we face or the situations we find ourselves in. It is a force, a strength that resides deep within us, often in places we may not recognize or understand. The truth is, hope does not disappear when life becomes difficult, but rather it transforms. It changes in form, adapts to our circumstances, and often emerges in unexpected ways when we learn to look for it inside ourselves rather than in the world around us. When everything feels dark, when it seems like the future holds nothing but hardship, we tend to believe that hope has left us. We wonder why, if hope is so vital to our well-being, we are so easily able to lose sight of it. It is in those times of despair, when the weight of the world feels overwhelming, that we believe hope has slipped through our fingers, leaving us with nothing but emptiness. But this belief, this illusion, is one of the most deceptive we can hold. The truth is, hope is never truly lost. It simply becomes harder to see, harder to grasp. The world around us may cloud our vision, and the challenges we face may make it difficult to feel anything but pain, but hope is always there, quietly waiting for us to recognize it. In these moments of darkness, hope doesn't disappear. Instead, it transforms into something different. Something more resilient. It becomes a quiet strength that we carry inside us, even when we don't feel its presence. It's a flicker of light in the distance, not a blazing fire, but enough to guide us forward, step by step, even when we don't know where the path leads. Hope in its transformed state becomes something that we must cultivate from within, something that requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to believe that better days are possible, even when everything around us tells us otherwise. Often, the challenge we face in our lives is not the absence of hope, but the inability to recognize it when we need it most. Hope is not a simple, one-dimensional concept. It doesn't always come in the form of grand gestures or sudden breakthroughs. Instead, it often appears as small, quiet acts of resilience. It may come in the form of a brief moment of peace, the ability to laugh amidst pain, or the strength to get out of bed when everything seems impossible. These moments, though fleeting, are the evidence that hope has not abandoned us. They are the subtle reminders that we are capable of enduring, of pushing through, even when the storm seems unrelenting. But the challenge we face is that in times of struggle, we often overlook these small moments of hope. We become so focused on the overwhelming nature of our problems that we forget to look for the tiny sparks of light within us. We wait for something external to change, for the world around us to shift, and for circumstances to improve before we believe that hope has returned. But in doing so, we fail to see that hope is not something that requires the world to change in order for us to feel it. It's something that we can carry with us, even in the most trying of times, as long as we are willing to look for it within ourselves. There is a misconception that hope only exists in the form of certainty. We think that we need to have all the answers, that we need to see the road ahead clearly in order to feel hope. But true hope is not about certainty. It's about trust. It's about trusting that no matter how uncertain the future may seem, we have the strength within us to face it. It's about knowing that even in the darkest moments, there is a possibility of light, even if we can't see it yet. Hope doesn't require us to know exactly what will happen next. It simply requires us to believe that no matter how difficult things may get, we have the ability to endure, to adapt, and to find our way through. This trust in ourselves, in our own strength and resilience, is the foundation upon which hope is built. When we believe in our own capacity to overcome, we find that hope grows naturally, even in the face of adversity. It is in these moments of trust, of faith in ourselves, that hope finds its way into our lives. And it is this hope, quiet, subtle, yet unbreakable, that becomes our source of strength when everything else seems to be falling apart. At times, hope feels elusive because we associate it with big, sweeping changes, miracles, turning points, breakthroughs. We look for hope in dramatic moments, in moments that seem to promise instant change. And when they don't come, we feel that hope has disappeared. But hope does not always operate on such a grand scale. More often, it operates on a smaller, more personal level. It is found in the little things, those small, everyday actions that allow us to keep going, even when we don't feel like it. Hope is present in our ability to make it through the day, in our ability to smile, even when we feel like crying, in our ability to care for others, even when we feel like we have nothing left to give. When we shift our understanding of hope from something grand and external to something personal and internal, we begin to see that it is always with us, even in the most difficult moments. Hope, in its purest form, is not a distant destination. It is a way of being, a way of living, a way of seeing the world. It is about choosing to keep going, even when it feels like the world is pushing us to stop. It is about finding the strength to take the next step, even when we can't see the whole journey ahead. One of the most powerful aspects of hope is its ability to evolve. When we face hardship, the form that hope takes changes. It may start off as a desperate longing for something better, but as we move through the struggle, hope becomes something deeper. It becomes the quiet strength to accept our circumstances, the courage to face the unknown, and the wisdom to recognize that there is no one right way to find hope. We must allow it to grow and shift with us, to become a part of who we are, rather than something we seek outside of ourselves. Hope is not a static thing, It does not remain the same throughout our lives. It grows, it changes, it adapts. It shifts from being something that we look for in the world around us to something that we nurture within ourselves. It teaches us that the road to healing and growth is not linear, but instead it is full of twists and turns, moments of uncertainty and moments of clarity. But no matter how the journey unfolds, hope is always there, quietly waiting for us to embrace it, to carry it forward, and to use it to fuel our own resilience. And perhaps that is the most powerful lesson we can learn. Hope is not something that is given to us. It is something that we create, that we cultivate, that we carry within us. It is not something we find in the world around us, but something that we find in ourselves. And when we realize that, when we understand that hope is not lost but transformed, we begin to see that no matter what we face, we have the power to create hope, to nurture it, and to allow it to grow. Hope is not lost. It simply transforms. And when we recognize that truth, when we learn to look for hope within ourselves rather than in the world around us, we find that it is always there, waiting for us to embrace it. Even in our darkest moments, hope remains a part of who we are. And it is this hope that gives us the strength to keep going, to keep fighting, and to keep believing in the possibility of a brighter future. Even in hopeless moments, one step forward is progress. At times, life can feel overwhelming, and the road ahead can seem long, uncertain, and full of obstacles. There are moments when everything feels too much, and the weight of the world makes it hard to see any way out. During these times, it's easy to feel like there's no point in trying. When we're caught in a cycle of struggle, the idea of progress may seem distant or even impossible. It's in these moments, however, that one of the most powerful truths can be found. Even when everything feels hopeless, taking one step forward is still progress. The human spirit has an incredible capacity for resilience, but it is often tested in the hardest of times. When the challenges we face are large and overwhelming, it's tempting to think that we have to solve everything at once or make giant leaps to see any progress. However, real growth often comes in small, incremental steps. In our darkest moments, when we feel as though we're barely holding on, it is these small steps that will ultimately carry us forward. It's easy to get discouraged when we don't see immediate results or when the obstacles before us feel insurmountable. But it's important to remember that every single step forward counts, even if it feels insignificant in the moment. The truth is, progress is not always linear. It is not always about dramatic changes or breakthroughs. Sometimes about the small victory, the quiet moments of courage when we choose to face another day, when we choose to get out of bed, when we choose to continue despite feeling lost. Taking one step forward, no matter how small, is still a victory. It is a refusal to be consumed by hopelessness, a decision to fight for something better, even when we can't see the path ahead. It's important to remember that progress doesn't always look like what we expect it to. When we're in the middle of a tough time, it's easy to believe that if we don't see immediate changes or results, we aren't making any progress at all. But sometimes progress is simply the act of showing up, of being present, and of taking that first small step when it would be easier to stay still. The act of moving forward, even when we can't see the destination clearly, is itself a form of strength. It's the acknowledgement that we are still moving, still trying, still fighting, even when it feels like the odds are against us. During these times, we can also remind ourselves that it's okay to not have all the answers, to not know what the next step should be. We often put pressure on ourselves to have everything figured out, to know exactly where we are going and how we're going to get there. But in reality, life is rarely that clear. Sometimes the only thing we need to do is take the next available step. no matter how small. This step might be simply asking for help, allowing ourselves to rest, or having the courage to acknowledge that we're struggling. In these moments, we don't need to know everything. We just need to keep moving, even if it's only one small step forward. One of the most powerful aspects of taking small steps forward, even when we feel hopeless, is the sense of agency it restores. When we're faced with overwhelming circumstances, it can feel as though we have no control, as though the world is happening to us and we are powerless to change anything. But every small step forward, even if it's just breathing through a difficult moment or taking care of ourselves, is an act of reclaiming control. It's a reminder that we are not entirely at the mercy of our circumstances and that we have the ability to make choices even in the darkest of times. These choices, no matter how small, are a reflection of our inner strength and our determination to keep going. It's also important to recognize that small steps don't have to be dramatic or even visible to others to be meaningful. Progress is deeply personal, and the journey we take is not always about impressing others or proving something to the world. It's about what we can do for ourselves, the quiet determination to keep going when it feels like no one else understands the weight of what we're carrying. Sometimes, progress is found in the moments when no one is looking, when we choose to keep fighting, even if we feel like we're alone. These moments are just as valuable as any outward achievement, and they are what build the foundation for future growth. Taking one step forward, especially when we feel hopeless, is also an act of self-compassion. It's recognizing that we don't have to be perfect, that we don't have to have everything figured out to deserve care and progress. We often hold ourselves to high standards, thinking that if we aren't making big strides or achieving great things, we aren't doing enough. But the truth is, just showing up and moving forward, even in the smallest way, is enough. We are worthy of progress, even when we feel like we're not making enough progress. One step is enough. The power of small steps lies in their cumulative effect. A single step might not seem like much in isolation, but when those steps build on each other, they create momentum. Before we know it, we find ourselves farther along than we ever thought possible. The journey doesn't happen overnight, and sometimes it doesn't happen in the way we expect, but each step forward, no matter how small, is part of the greater journey of healing, growth, and progress. The key is to remember that no step is too small, and every step taken is a sign of strength, resilience, and the courage to move forward in the face of uncertainty. Even when everything feels hopeless, one step forward is progress, and it is a step worth taking. The human spirit is capable of overcoming any trial. At the core of every individual is a strength, a resilience that is often far greater than we realize. Life has a way of testing us, of presenting challenges and obstacles that sometimes feel insurmountable. These trials can range from personal losses to physical pain to the battles we face with our own minds. It's easy, in the midst of such adversity, to believe that we are broken, that we are powerless, or that we cannot endure. But the truth is, the human spirit, despite its fragility and vulnerability, possesses an incredible capacity to overcome. It is in the darkest of times, when we feel as though we have nothing left, that we often discover the depths of our inner strength. Our ability to endure hardship and overcome trials is not something that we are born with as a set trait, but something that grows and evolves within us over time. In moments of pain, we might feel small, defeated, and incapable of moving forward. But with each challenge we face, something within us strengthens. Even in moments when we can't see the path ahead, our spirit is quietly working, adapting, and learning how to move forward. The trials we face don't break us permanently. They are catalysts for growth. And it's through this growth that we discover the immense power of our spirit, one that is capable of more than we often give ourselves credit for. The power to overcome lies in our ability to adapt. Life isn't static, and neither are we. In the face of adversity, the human spirit can shift, grow, and transform in ways that allow us to navigate even the toughest circumstances. What we once thought was a limit, a point beyond which we could not go, becomes a lesson, a milestone of endurance. Overcoming any trial doesn't always mean emerging unscathed or unchanged. It means learning how to rise again, learning how to keep going even when every part of us is screaming to stop. The human spirit is not defined by the things that bring us down, but by the way we rise from those experiences. When we face trials, we often don't see them coming. They arrive without warning, and we are thrown into unfamiliar territory where the ground beneath us feels unstable. At these times, we may feel uncertain, unsure of what to do next or how to proceed. The unknown can be intimidating, and it's easy to fall into fear or doubt. However, it is in these moments of uncertainty that we tap into our greatest strength, the strength of perseverance. The willingness to continue, to keep moving forward without knowing the outcome, is a reflection of the unyielding nature of the human spirit. Even when we feel lost, even when we feel broken, there is something deep inside us that keeps pushing forward, sometimes without us even realizing it. The beauty of the human spirit is that it doesn't need perfection to thrive. We don't have to have all the answers or all the solutions in order to overcome the trials we face. What we need is a commitment to keep going, to not give up, no matter how difficult the journey. The spirit's strength is not in avoiding struggle, but in facing it with courage and resolve. It's in taking that first step even when we feel paralyzed with fear and continuing to take one step after another, no matter how slow the progress may be. Another aspect of the human spirit's capacity for overcoming trials is its ability to find meaning, even in suffering. When faced with challenges, we often search for reasons, explanations, or justifications for our pain. Why are we going through this? What have we done to deserve it? While some trials may have answers, many do not. But this doesn't mean they are without purpose. The human spirit has the remarkable ability to turn even the most painful experiences into sources of growth and learning. Through struggle, we gain empathy, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of ourselves. What may have initially seemed like a burden becomes a part of our story, one that shapes us into a stronger, more compassionate version of ourselves. When we view trials through the lens of growth, we begin to see that every challenge, no matter how painful, is an opportunity to become more than we were before. Our spirit is shaped by the struggles we endure, but it is also empowered by them. Overcoming a trial doesn't mean simply surviving it. It means learning how to transform it, how to take the lessons it offers and use them to fuel our journey forward. In this way, the trials we face, while difficult, become stepping stones to a greater understanding of who we are and what we are capable of achieving. But perhaps the most profound strength of the human spirit is its ability to inspire others. When we overcome trials, we not only transform ourselves, but we also create a ripple effect that can inspire those around us. Our resilience, our perseverance, and our capacity to rise above challenges become a beacon of hope for others who may be facing their own struggles. In this way, the power of the human spirit extends beyond just the individual. It becomes a source of collective strength, a reminder that no one is truly alone in their struggles. We are all connected by our shared ability to overcome, and in that connection, we find the courage to keep going. The human spirit's capacity to overcome trials is a testament to the incredible strength that resides within each of us. In the face of adversity, it is easy to forget our power, to feel as though we are powerless and defeated. But the truth is, the spirit is far stronger than any obstacle that stands in its way. It may take time, it may take patience, and it may take more strength than we think we have, but the human spirit is ultimately capable of overcoming any trial. It is not the difficulties we face that define us. It is the way we choose to rise, to endure, and to keep moving forward, no matter how insurmountable the challenges may seem. Through each trial, the spirit becomes stronger, more resilient, and more capable of achieving the impossible. Strength is defined by how we rise after adversity. There is a misconception in our society about what strength truly is. Many people view strength as the ability to avoid weakness, to stay unaffected by hardship, and to push through challenges without showing any sign of vulnerability. We admire the people who seem to glide through life, untouched by adversity, and we often feel as though we, too, must exhibit that kind of strength to be worthy of respect. However, this view of strength is incomplete. The real measure of strength is not found in the ability to avoid difficulties, but in how we rise after we face them. True strength comes from our capacity to recover, rebuild, and move forward, no matter how many times we are knocked down. Life as we know it is full of challenges. None of us can escape suffering, loss, or failure. These are universal experiences, part of the human condition. And while they can be painful and overwhelming, they also provide us with the opportunity to redefine what strength means. We are often taught that strength is something we are born with or something that we must grit through to prove ourselves. But in reality, strength is a skill, one that we develop through hardship, through resilience, and through the choice to keep moving forward, no matter how difficult the journey becomes. When we experience hardship, it is natural to feel defeated. We feel as though the weight of the world is on our shoulders, and we wonder how we can ever recover from the emotional, physical, or mental toll that adversity takes on us. It's easy to let these moments define us, to believe that because we are suffering, we are weak. But the truth is, suffering does not make us weak, it makes us human. It is through suffering that we learn our deepest lessons, uncover our inner strength, and build resilience. The pain we experience does not diminish our worth. Rather, it reveals the depth of our character and our ability to persevere. Strength is not about avoiding pain or hardship. It is about how we handle it. It is the decision to rise after every fall, to continue after every setback. It is the resilience to keep going, even when we feel like giving up, and the courage to face each day, no matter how challenging it may seem. Every time we rise after adversity, we build our strength. Each time we face a setback and find the courage to push forward, we add another layer to our character, another testament to our resilience. Strength is not built in easy moments. It is built in the moments where we think we cannot go on, and yet we do. The beauty of strength is that it is not a fixed trait. It is something that we can develop, refine, and expand over time. The more we rise from adversity, the more we realize that our capacity for strength is far greater than we once believed. At the beginning of a difficult journey, we may feel small, fragile, and powerless. But as we continue to face challenges, we begin to see the strength we have within us, and we realize that we are capable of far more than we ever imagined. In these moments of difficulty, we are often tested. The world may seem like it's pushing us down, trying to break us, and there may be times when we feel utterly helpless. But in those very moments, when it feels like there is no way out, we are given the chance to prove to ourselves just how strong we are. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to have all the answers. We simply have to be willing to rise again and again, even when it feels impossible. And every time we do, we build strength, not just physical or mental strength, but emotional and spiritual strength. We grow in our capacity to cope with hardship, and we expand our understanding of what we are capable of enduring. True strength is not about never being knocked down. It's about being knocked down and choosing to get up again. It's about understanding that setbacks are not signs of failure, but opportunities for growth. It's about realizing that adversity does not define us. It refines us. Every time we face a challenge, we are given a chance to show up for ourselves, to prove to ourselves that we are capable of more than we thought. This is where real strength is forged, in the quiet moments of resilience, in the everyday decisions to keep going, and in the unwavering belief that no matter how many times we fall, we will always rise again. We must also recognize that strength is not something we should bear alone. In times of difficulty, reaching out for support is a strength, not a weakness. Strength is also found in vulnerability, in being able to admit that we cannot do it all on our own, and in trusting others to help us when we need it. Strength is not about pushing ourselves to the point of exhaustion or isolation. It is about understanding that we are part of a larger community, that we are not alone in our struggles. And by allowing ourselves to lean on others, we further build our strength by opening ourselves to connection, compassion, and shared resilience. We may not always choose the difficulties that come our way, but we can choose how we respond to them. Strength is not something that is given to us. It is something we create with every choice we make in the face of hardship. It is something that grows with each step we take, even when it feels like we are walking through fire. Every challenge, every setback, every failure is an opportunity to rise higher, to prove to ourselves that we are capable of more than we thought, and to emerge stronger than we were before. And when we emerge from our struggles, we don't just return to where we were before. We are changed, transformed by the adversity we faced, and stronger because of it. Our struggles do not define us, but our ability to rise from them does. The power of strength is not in avoiding hardship, but in how we rise after it. This is the true essence of strength, not in the absence of adversity, but in our ability to endure, grow, and rise higher with each challenge we face. Darkness and pain don't define us, our response does. Life is full of challenges, and no one is exempt from experiencing pain, suffering, or moments of despair. At some point, we all face darkness in various forms, whether it's the loss of a loved one, a personal failure, a betrayal, or simply feeling overwhelmed by life's demands. It is inevitable that we will encounter painful moments that can threaten to break us. During these times, it can feel as though the weight of the world is crushing us, and we may find ourselves questioning who we are, what our purpose is, or whether we will ever feel whole again. However, it is in these very moments, when we are tested the most, that we discover one of the most important truths of all. Darkness and pain do not define us. How we respond to them does. The power to define ourselves in the face of adversity is one of the most profound gifts we have as human beings. It is easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the pain we experience becomes our identity. When we're in the depths of grief, loss, or failure, it can feel like there's no way out, and that the sorrow we carry will forever be a part of who we are. The weight of these emotions may cause us to question our worth, leading us to believe that our pain is the sum total of who we are. But the reality is that the pain we experience does not define us. Our response to it does. Our response shapes who we become and determines the strength we will find in the aftermath. In our darkest moments, we have a choice. We can choose to let the pain consume us, to allow it to shape our identity and create a life defined by sorrow and bitterness. Alternatively, we can choose to rise above it, to embrace the lessons it brings, and to emerge from the darkness stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. It is not the pain itself that has the power to define us, but rather the way in which we respond to it. When we choose to face our pain with courage and resilience, we choose to shape a future where our strength is our identity, not our suffering. This choice is not always easy. The human experience is one of constant tension between the desire to retreat from pain and the need to confront it head-on. Often, when we face pain, we instinctively want to avoid it, to numb ourselves from it, or to escape it in some way. But the truth is, it's only by confronting our pain that we can truly understand its power and transform it into something meaningful. Pain in its rawest form can be overwhelming, but when we allow ourselves to sit with it, to acknowledge its presence, and to move through it with intention, we can find the strength to turn it into a catalyst for growth. This does not mean that pain is something to be welcomed or that we should ever seek out suffering, but it does mean that we have the capacity to use our pain as a means of building resilience, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of ourselves. One of the most powerful aspects of human resilience is our ability to find meaning in pain. While suffering is often perceived as something senseless or unjust, the truth is that pain, if we allow it, can offer us profound lessons. It teaches us about our capacity for endurance, it reminds us of the fragility of life, and it opens our hearts to the suffering of others. Pain can be transformative when we allow ourselves to use it as a tool for growth, rather than something that defines us as victims. The way we respond to our pain can create a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves. When we rise above our suffering, we inspire others to do the same. Our ability to overcome challenges and face pain with grace becomes a beacon of hope for others who are walking through their own darkness. In order to respond to pain in a way that empowers us, we must first be willing to accept that pain is a natural part of life. It is impossible to avoid hardship completely, and it would be unrealistic to expect a life free of sorrow or difficulty. Accepting that pain is an inevitable part of our journey allows us to approach it with a sense of awareness and acceptance rather than resistance. By acknowledging that suffering is not an anomaly, but a shared experience among all human beings, we can begin to see pain through a lens of compassion, both for ourselves and for others. It is also important to recognize that pain does not have to be endured in isolation. While we all experience our own unique challenges, we do not have to navigate them alone. It is through connection, through reaching out for support, and through the shared experience of human vulnerability that we often find the strength to heal. Our response to pain can be one that fosters connection and empathy, both for ourselves and for others. When we open ourselves to the reality of our suffering, we create space for others to do the same. In this way, pain, though difficult, can also serve as a bridge, allowing us to connect with others in meaningful ways. There is also an inherent power in reframing the narrative we tell ourselves about our pain. Instead of viewing ourselves as victims of our circumstances, we can choose to see ourselves as survivors, as individuals who are capable of finding strength and meaning in the face of adversity. When we change the way we view pain from something that defines us to something that challenges and refines us, we shift our perspective from helplessness to empowerment. Our identity is not rooted in the pain itself, but in how we rise above it, how we learn from it, and how we choose to use it as a stepping stone on our journey of personal growth. Our response to pain and darkness is the defining factor in who we become. The pain we experience will always be a part of our story, but it does not have to be the chapter that defines us. We are not defined by the suffering we endure, but by how we choose to transform it into something greater. The power lies not in avoiding pain or pretending it doesn't exist, but in embracing it with the understanding that it does not have the final say in who we are or what we can become. How we respond to our pain is what truly defines us.